Welcome to another episode of The Voice of Arsenal Fans Kenya. This is a show hosted by me, Beggy, an Arsenal fan for many years, around 10. So, what the show does, we will be going around Kenya trying to get different stories and different interviews for the Arsenal fans that we have here, where we will aim to cover the remaining of the 36, yes, beginning Liverpool on Saturday, the remaining of the 36 Premier League games and a tour of the Europa League. And we will be having halftime, pre-game and post-game interviews with our fans, recording their reactions and just having fun with the club that we love here in Kenya. So you're free to jump right in, subscribe, like, share this video, and let the other fans in Kenya know that there's a show for them and there's a voice that will give them the platform that they need to let the world know what they think about their club. So welcome. During the Burnley game, one of the things that I really found to be very surprising is, for a matter of fact, I had never actually sat down and thought about it. The commentator said that it's been 10 years since Arsenal won back-to-back and recorded 6 points in the first two Premier League games. And I was like, hey, is that my club? How is that my club? But either way, it's 6 on 6. And we're headed to Anfield.
To Iwobi, and Liverpool are under pressure here. And there's the finish, and Maitland-Niles is the scorer.
We dread Anfield.
And it's another Liverpool penalty. No James Milner. Salah hands the ball over. Firmino, who has had his misses, not today. Hat-trick hero, Bobby Firmino.
But we will have to cope with the atmosphere that's there and hope they win the game, and then we go on to play against Spurs, which will also be a very hard game. So we're bracing ourselves for it. But I want to do a small review of the game that we have against Liverpool on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Kenyan time, and give my thoughts about it. You can comment below and give me your thoughts about it, and tell me where you watch the game from, and if you'd like us to visit your area so that you as a fan can have your voice heard. So right on it. Today it was funny that I saw some post on Twitter where it was a photo of Unai Emery. Under the photo there were quoted speech marks of him saying, "For us, we don't want to play against Liverpool ever. We would prefer not to play against them." And I found it to be funny, and I wondered, did Emery really say that? I doubt, because Emery is someone who relishes these games, and I know that there's banter around before each game is played, and you'd like to unnerve the other team or get your nerves calmed down before the game. And if this is the case, then probably it was just said so that the Arsenal players would relax and see this as a joke and prove to him that they would really want to play against Liverpool at Anfield. So about Emery, he's been there for a season, and one thing that I distinguish between him and Wenger is Emery plays structured football, and this has been seen in the Burnley game and the Newcastle game, where we really have to play from the back before we don't have these fast counter attacks where we just launch the ball. And I thought David Luiz would do this, and we saw that he did it once or twice to Aubameyang, but generally the ball has to start from Leno and move from the back and slowly build up, then get into rhythm and transition to the front, which I find to be, sorry to say, but boring football, because I don't want to sound like the United fans. Sorry, I'm bringing United into this, but they always talked about Ferguson, and I didn't want to talk about Wenger all the time. But he had beautiful football at Arsenal, and at times we used to lose the game, but sitting back, relaxing and looking at it, we say, we lost the game, but this was entertaining. Looks like we're coming out of that kind of regime. Yes, we've been out of it for a season, and we did quite well last season. We should have won the Europa League. Yes, I'm wearing the Europa kit, and hopefully this season we'll challenge for the top four, we'll challenge for the Europa, and next season we'll get to play the Champions League. I'll go straight ahead and talk about the Liverpool game. So Liverpool host Arsenal in the third match of the Premier League 2019-2020 season at Anfield. and we both go into this with 6 points each, Liverpool being first position right now and Arsenal being the second position. So this is a game between the two best clubs, let me just call it the two best clubs as of now ranked in the Premier League. And this is going to be a tough game because we know last year we can remember the scars that Liverpool left to us at the Anfield, where they thrashed us. I can't even say beat us, where they thrashed us 5-1. And from that game, as the game began and Niles scored the goal, and all Arsenal fans around the world knew that today is the day that we finally beat Liverpool in their home turf for quite a while. And within seconds, Firmino had equalized and went ahead to score a hat-trick where he danced. I can't even want to remember how that game ended. But we face Liverpool this Saturday, a game at the Anfield. It's going to be a tough game. One of the things that I'd like to see in that game is Pepe. So against Newcastle, Pepe played around 20 of the last minutes. And against Burnley, he came on at the 45th minute and ended up playing 45 minutes. So doing this progressive analysis of when Pepe comes into the game, after you play 45 minutes and you play 20 minutes, then that means that you can only go higher. And from that, I reckon that Pepe will be in the starting lineup for the game against Liverpool. Dani Ceballos, the Arsenal favourite right now. So a little about Dani Ceballos. In the first game, in his last game against Newcastle, sorry, I had to adjust my camera. So in his last game against Burnley, Ceballos recorded two assists, one for Laka and one for Oba. And in the first half, we saw that he had 100% take-ons. All his take-ons were quite something, and he had an 100% rate in take-ons. He had the most completed passes on the pitch in the first half. He had the most ball recoveries in the first half, and he had the most chances created. I can go on and on about all the things that Ceballos had. And one of the things that he brings to the squad that we lacked in the first game against Newcastle is that finally there's someone who carries the ball from the defense and transitions with the ball across the midfield and lets the attackers have something to show us, because he brings the ball from the defense. The defense, after their defending duties, we didn't in the Newcastle game, though we can blame the weather and say that the game had the weather was bad during that game, but what we saw is that generally there wasn't a flow of transition. The game was stagnant. The game didn't have that transition from defense to attack. And with the display that Ceballos had in the Burnley game, being our man of the to me, he was my man of the match in that game. And it was a really good show for Ceballos, and he's going to be a fan favourite, and we really want to see him play well at Arsenal, even though he's on loan, and probably Don what's his name? Don Sanlehi. Yeah, Don Sanlehi can do his magic and have Ceballos sign with Arsenal next season. But even if it doesn't happen, we know that we have a season and we'll get the best out of him this season. Another thing that the Arsenal team is showing us in this season is that we have some youth excitement, because the Arsenal team averages around between 20 to 23 years as of the Burnley game, with Niles at 21, Guendouzi at 20, Willock, our academy player, and showing very good prospects this season. Just turned 20 on Wednesday. That's when he's turned 20 during his birthday. And there's a funny video on Twitter where Emil Smith-Rowe asks Willock if he was to be a superhero, what power he'd choose. And he said that he wanted to be an ant. And the reason is he just be in the room so that no one can see that he's there, but he listens to everything and is just in the room. We have Reece Nelson, who's also young. We have Ceballos, who's also young. And our main man, Pepe, at 24 years, we saw that he's a very good dribbler, and he's a very good carrier of the ball as well. So it will be a very good partnership between him and Ceballos. And this then means that as of the Burnley game, I actually didn't see a place for Xhaka. Funny that Xhaka is our captain, but I can say for last season, Shaka was equally as clumsy as Mustafi, because you'd see that at times he made challenges that were not necessary. Uh, he'd make tackles that would lead to goal, and just unnecessary mistakes. And the game now that the Premier League is showing us to have is that the game needs to be versatile. We need to have midfielders who are not just the traditional defensive midfielder, or you're just an attacking midfielder, but you need someone who's versatile, someone who can play all around the pitch. He can play in the defensive role of the midfielder. He can pick up the ball and move fast with pace, pick up passes. And all we can see from Shaka is that he can pick up the range of passes that Guendouzi can equally do. And besides that, he's slow. So with the very young midfielders at Arsenal as of now, I see it quite hard for Shaka to try and find a spot in the team. And we've not really seen the best of Shaka because he does not play like someone who wants to cement his position. And as of now, a partnership of Guendouzi, Willock, you have Ceballos, you have Torreira. All these people show that they really want to play for Arsenal, and they have the grit that is needed to play for Arsenal. And Shaka is just at times I even think that he does it for granted. He takes it for granted because he knows that he's Shaka, he's supposed to be the captain. Until he shows an improvement in his game, we should really start with Willock, Guendouzi, Torreira, Ceballos, and those kind of players. Our defense, yes, this is a part that Arsenal needed to strengthen. And we bought Saliba and sent him back on loan. And then we went ahead and bought Luiz from our rivals, Chelsea, for around 8 million, which was a good buy. But it was Luiz, just as it was asked during the run up to the end of the transfer window for the English teams, is Luiz really the solution to the Arsenal defense? Because one thing that we see with Luiz is he's the kind of defender who does not intercept passes. From the Burnley game, we saw that Luiz tried to let the ball get to Chris Wood, and then he'd defend after Chris Wood has the ball. He's the kind of player who wants to be run at with the ball for him to defend, and not try and read the game and intercept the ball and prevent it from getting to the attackers. A funny thing about our defense, I saw also on Twitter that Socrates said that Burnley were harder to defend than Liverpool will be during the weekend. And this is a very big statement to say in the run-up to a game at Anfield. And we hope that Socrates can match his words and really defend against the likes of Mo Salah, the likes of Origi, the likes of Mane and Oxlade-Chamberlain. We get to play against him. Last season we couldn't play against him because he was in his long-term injury. Papa also said that he likes playing with Luiz, though they've only been paired for one full game, that was against Burnley. But he said that he likes playing with Luiz because it reminds him about Hummels, when he played with Matt Hummels at Dortmund. And they had a really good partnership with Hummels, and he says that he picks up some of the things that him and Hummels used to do as he plays with Luiz. But that doesn't guarantee Luiz a spot at Arsenal. But my interpretation of Luiz is that he's more of a sweeper kind of a defender who plays better in a back three formation. And so in the game against Liverpool on Saturday, I'd prefer Emery playing him in a back three rather than playing him in a two-man centre-back defence. Where if he plays him in a back three, then I'd like to see Chambers in the squad and Papa and Socrates in the squad to play as the central defenders, and Luiz to play behind them as a sweeper. Allowing him to just read the game and play as the sweeper of the defense will allow Socrates and Chambers to really defend against Mo Salah and Mane, and let Luiz understand the game, communicate with his defenders, because he's a leader. He can tell them what positions of the defense to occupy and how to read the game, and from a sweeper position he can be able to have a better look at where the attack might come from and probably nullify it and help us win the game. So I'd prefer, if Luiz is to play in the game on Saturday, then Emery has to go with the back three, because if he plays with Luiz and Socrates as the defenders, Burnley wasn't a pacey team, but Burnley wasn't a pacey team, and this pace would really be a challenge for Luiz. And all this talk about the defense reminds me about Mustafi. So yes, Mustafi is still in Arsenal. We saw him on the weekend seated next to Ozil, not even wearing an Arsenal jersey. He was in some coloured shirt in the stands behind the substitutes. And we wonder, will Mustafi actually come back and play for Arsenal? Because Emery has not even thought about playing him in the first 2 games. And a rumor suggests that he might be on his way to Roma. It's a rumor that suggests Roma are in a bid to secure his services before the end of the European transfer market. So I have this segment in the Voice of Arsenal Fan Kenya show, where I ask, if you were Emery, what would you do? And for this review against Liverpool for the game in the weekend, if I were Emery, I would decide to play either of the 2 formations. I'd either play a 4-3-3 or play a 3-4-3 formation for the game against Liverpool. And if I'm to play in a 4-3-3 formation, then I'd have Leno in goal, I'd have Niles at the right back, Monreal left back. The centre pairing would be Socrates and Chambers. Then I'd have Torreira playing as a defensive midfielder, and have the floating midfielders as Ceballos and Guendouzi, just to support him when need be and to attack and carry the transition of the ball. Then I'd obviously have our front three, our lethal front three: Pepe on the right wing, Aubameyang on the left wing, and Lacazette up front. And that would be my formation if I was to play a 4-3-3. Then there's the option of playing a 3-4-3 formation. And in this 3-4-3 formation, then Luiz gets to come in and plays the sweeper just in front of Leno. And beside him, I'd have Chambers and Socrates, so I'd retain them from my 4-3-3 formation. Then Niles and Kolasinac could come into the game and play as our wing backs and also as our inverted wing backs, where they are during defense they play as defenders, fullback defenders, and in transition then they come and support the midfield and make it a midfield four with Ceballos and Guendouzi. This time I'd drop Torreira and have him in the bench if I'm to play with a 3-4-3 formation. And I'd retain my front three to Pepe, Aubameyang and Lacazette, where Lacazette can be able to drop deep, as we have seen him do on numerous occasions, and pick up the ball and supply it to our very pacey forwards in Pepe and Aubameyang. Last week I recorded a video on the Burnley game. It was the actual first video of the show, and I went into some technical problems in editing it, but I will still post the game. I will still post the show, and you can as well check it out after this review, because I will post it before the Liverpool game, and you can have your thoughts on that game and on our review and on VAR, because VAR played it wasn't a major decision, but we should have seen Reece Nelson score a very sublime goal in that game. So yeah, this has been a good review. I hope to make the other reviews better, and hope to get your views on how to improve the show. But from me and the Voice of Arsenal Fans Kenya, hoping to tour all over Kenya and get to interact with all the Arsenal fans. So from me, see you on Saturday, 7:30 Kenyan time, hoping that Arsenal win. My predicted score is a narrow 2-1 win for Arsenal. So let's hope that Arsenal do it. This has been the Voice of Arsenal Fans Kenya, hosted by Beggy. See you next time.
We've still got more than half an hour to go, and here's Ozil. Lacazette. Ozil! Arsenal!
The roof's just come off this place. Liverpool so often involved in these games.
And have to shake themselves back into life. That's what he wants, he needs. Extraordinary at the Emirates. Liverpool shake their heads. What a turnaround!